Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vishtaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pachaline Nivasisha Shunyavadi Pashtatara Satarine Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare. Okay, so I'm going to bring Bhagavad Gita up. There you go. Nice shiny Bhagavad Gita as it is. And yeah, we've gone through up to chapter 13 we're on. So it's made some quite good progress. So let's have a look at chapter 13. Okay, so I thought to begin with, as I usually like to do to get some context, just read through the translation of the verses. Okay, and then we can come to text 15, and then we'll read the purport. Yeah, have some discussion, questions as usual, etc. Okay, so I try to restrain myself from commenting on every verse because we might not get to the verse today. A little bit perhaps. So nature, the enjoyer, and consciousness. Yeah. So who's the enjoyer? Yeah.
Kṛṣṇa.
Kṛṣṇa, ultimately, yes. So text 1 to 2. Arjuna said, "Oh my dear Kṛṣṇa, I wish to now know about prakṛti, nature, puruṣa, the enjoyer, yeah, and the field, and the knower of the field, and the knowledge and the object of knowledge." Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Supreme Personality of Godhead said, so he's beginning his answer. This body, O son of Kuntī, is called the field. One who knows this body is called the knower of the field. It's interesting this is used, described like that, the body is a field, because within the, it's like, it gives you an understanding that we act within the field of the body, which there's various gates. There's various gates within the body. So that's our field, and our field is also our extended karma, the field that we move in. Yeah. So one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So there's a difference between the two. One who knows this body is called the knower. So to know means it means it's a separate identity. 3. O Shrine of Bharat, you should understand that I am also the knower in all bodies. And to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. So he's the supreme knower. We know our body to some degree. Some degree we can feel the pains, the aches and the pains and the aches, etc. And also the frustrations, the joys and the sorrow. But Kṛṣṇa is conscious of all bodies. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, and who that knower of the field of activities is. Any questions as we're going along, please feel free to unmute and ask. And what its influences are. 5. That knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. It is especially presented in the Vedanta Sutra with all reasoning as to cause and effect, so also known as the Brahma Sutra. 6 and 7. The 5 great elements, false ego, intelligence, the unmanifested, the 10 senses and the mind, the 5 sense objects, desire, hatred, happiness, distress, the aggregate, the life symptoms and convictions, all these are considered in summary to be the field of activities and its interaction. So this is what we are entangled in here. Now, what is knowledge? Let's describe from 8 to 12. Very nice verses to learn. If you were so inspired to learn these verses, they're very nice. So, what is actually knowledge? Man vidvam adam vidvam ahimsa ajavam evacha. So, humility, pridelessness, non-violence, tolerance, simplicity, approaching a bona fide spiritual master, cleanliness, steadiness, self-control, renunciation of the objects of sense gratification, absence of false ego, the perception of the evil of birth, death, old age, and disease, janma mrityu, jyāvyādi darshanam. That's this part of the verse. Detachment, freedom from entanglement with children, wife, home, and the rest. Even-mindedness amid pleasant and unpleasant events. Constant and unalloyed devotion to me. Aspiring to live in a solitary place. Detachment from the general mass of people. Accepting the importance of self-realization and philosophical search for the absolute truth. All these I declare to be knowledge, and besides this, whatever there may be is ignorance. Now, I won't comment on that, but any questions, please feel free to ask if something's not clear what we're reading. So, okay, we're getting closer. This is where we left off 7 months ago. I shall now explain the knowable, knowing which you will taste the eternal, Brahman, the spirit, beginningless and subordinate to me, lies beyond the cause and effect of this material world. So beyond what's just been explained. 14. Sarvapadi, yeah. Everywhere are his hands and legs, his eyes, heads and faces, and he has ears everywhere. So this is the omnipresence of the Lord. He has ears everywhere. In this way, the Supersoul exists, pervading everything. Yeah, so this is Brahman realization. This is similar to the discussion in today's class in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Very similar. Okay. Here we go, text 15. And you ready? Everyone still with us?
Yeah, I was just thinking, should we start from the, I don't know what other things.
You want to start from text 1?
Chapter or not?
Okay, any votes out there? Chandravali's making a suggestion that we go to text 1.
And do that, Prabhu. I think that would be nice.
Okay. Any violent protests against that? No. Okay, no violent protests.
What this verses you read, it's it's not
interesting, isn't it? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you can't just grasp it and go, yeah.
I know. Let's go back to chapter 1, text 1.
Yeah,
no, let's
so
go
then we can
back
follow it.
to chapter 13. Okay, fine. Yeah, so here we go. Let's go back there.
Does it mean it's going to cause your recording a problem?
No, it's true. Couldn't. No, somehow might. Okay, wait. It's a bit slow. So, okay, so nature enjoying consciousness sense. So let's go to that. Text 13, chaps. Text 1 and 2. So we're doing the Sanskrit for this, isn't it? If I remember correctly. The Sanskrit in Bhagavad Gita is a little bit easier.
Yeah.
Than Brihat Bhagavatamrita.
Yeah.
So, okay, I guess I'll read ahead. First, and then Arjuna vacha prakritim puruṣam cheva shatvam satragyam evacha etat viditum ichchami jnanam geyam cha keshava. Shri Bhagavan uvacha idam sariyam kunteya shatram iti abhidyat abhidiyate etat yo vetitam praho shatra gyan iti tat vitaha. Okay, let's just do the translation. Arjuna said, my dear Kṛṣṇa, I wish to know about prakṛti, puruṣa. No, I wish to know about prakṛti, nature, puruṣa, the enjoyer, and the field and the knower of the field, and of knowledge and the object of knowledge. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, this body, O son of Kuntī, is called the field. One who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So just for your information, I think we mentioned this morning, that this language of these subjects, that is all what the Vedanta Sutra is about. It discusses all of this. The field, the knower of the field, the seer who is seeing, who is doing, etc. That's all this is Vedanta Sutra language. Okay. Very technical book. If you try to read it, it'll make your head spin. Guys, I've tried to read it a couple of times, and I have great fun understanding. I can't understand it. A little something we understand. Okay, should we read the purport? Arjuna was inquisitive about prakṛti, nature, puruṣa, the enjoyer, kshetra, the field, kshetra, gyan, its knower, and knowledge and the object of knowledge. When he inquired about all of these, Kṛṣṇa said that this body is called the field, and that one who knows this body is called the knower of the field. So who knows this body?
Knower of the field.
Yeah, who is that?
The self.
The self, yeah, the jiva.
Jiva, yeah.
The jiva. But Krishna is also the knower of all fields. Yeah. This body is the field of activity for the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul is entrapped in material existence, and he attempts to lord it over material nature. And so, according to his capacity to dominate material nature, he gets a field of activity. So how can you describe that in one word?
According to his action, he gets the body.
It's one word, a very
Karma.
karma. Yeah, that's what's being described here. So interesting that the type of body we get, it's all rigged. I mean, the whole thing is rigged in a sense that the amount of happiness and distress you're going to get comes all rigged with your body. You're not going to change it. It's kind of rigged up according to the body you have. That's the facilities that you're going to so-called enjoy in and suffer, a particular body that you have. Yeah. So we get a particular field of activity. So we create it. Yeah. That field of activity is the body. Okay, so then go deeper. What is the body? The body is made of senses. Yeah, so I mentioned the field, and like within the field, there's different gates. This is the story of Arjuna in Srimad Bhagavatam. The description is given in this regard. How the soul, the Arjuna, the enjoyer, wants to enjoy in different places, in different gates of the body. So anyway, so the conditioned soul wants to enjoy sense gratification. And according to his capacity to enjoy sense gratification, he is offered a body or field of activity. Yeah? So you may get animal's body, tiger's body, bug's body, dog's body, human body, demigod body. Yeah, can have a choice out of how many bodies?
8,400,000.
8 million?
400,000?
400,000. So take your pick. Therefore, the body is called kshetra, or the field of activities. Yeah, he's Kshetra. Field of activity for the conditioned soul. Okay, not the liberated soul. Doesn't have a material body. Now, the person who should not identify himself with the body, so that's us, is the Kshetragyan, the knower of the field. Yeah, we exist as the observer. Yeah. We are all observing ourselves aging, isn't it? We are observing the body aging. We are different from what is aging. We are the observer. And Prabhupada says, it is not very difficult to understand the difference between the field and its knower, the body and the knower of the body. Any person can consider that from childhood to old age, he undergoes so many changes of body, yet he is still one person. Yeah? We're still the constant one person remaining. Thus, there is a difference between a knower of the field of activities, that's the soul, and the actual field of activities. A living conditioned soul can thus understand that he is different from the body. Yeah, so we have to meditate on these things as well, as I mentioned that as well. These are things for meditation. Yeah, it's not. Then we can get wisdom and insight if we meditate on these things. Even by reading this now, it can give us a sense of detachment from the world just by reading this transcendental knowledge, So then a living conditioned soul can thus understand that he is different from the body. It is described in the beginning, Dehinosmin. Anyone can finish this verse? Bhagavad Gita, you know this verse? Dehinosmin.
यथा देहे कौमारं यौवनं जरा तथा देहान्तर प्राप्तिस् धीरस्तत्र न मुह्यति.
Yeah, thank you. As the conditioned soul passes from this body, from boyhood to youth to old age, the soul similarly passes to another body at death. What's the big deal? What's the... It is already happening now and at death. So someone whose knowledge, they're sober and are not bewildered by this change. Yeah. That the living entity is within the body and that the body is changing from childhood to boyhood, from boyhood to youth, and from youth to old age. I'm sure we've all got photos when we was 18 years old. Have you got photos? Mm-hmm. It's always interesting looking at. It's gone forever. Youth has gone. The owner is distinctly Kshetragyan. Sometimes we think, I am happy, I'm a man, I'm a woman, I'm a dog, I'm a cat. Yeah, so this is misidentification. These are bodily designations of the knower, but the knower is different from the body. So we may use many articles, our clothes, etc. We know we are different from the things used. Similarly, we also understand by little contemplation that we are different from the body. Just a little contemplation. I or you or anyone else who knows the body is called Kshetragyan, the knower of the field of activities. And the body is called Kshetra, the field of activities itself. Okay, so now Prabhupada's going to give a little summary of the Bhagavad Gita so far. So he explains, in the first six chapters of Bhagavad Gita, the knower of the body, living entity, and the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord are described. So what's the position by which we can understand the Lord?
One is Jnana Yoga.
Yeah, I mean, I'm asking it because I'm not exactly sure myself. That could well be it. Jnana Yoga, the position.
Jnana Yoga, Karma Yoga, and Bhakti Yoga. And I thought because he's talking all about you have to sit in certain place and then bring your mind.
That's 6th chapter, yeah?
So it has to, so first 6th chapter has to be Jnana Yoga.
No, the first 6 chapters are, is that right? One is,
It could be Karma Yoga.
it's Karma Yoga, and then Bhakti is in the middle 6, and Jnana Yoga is the final 6.
Okay.
Well,
I was all the way around.
Yeah. Well, let's read on. See.
Doesn't Kṛṣṇa say that, though he says all this karma yoga and everything, but doesn't he say even it's the devotion that is the one that's...
Yeah, that was the...
Even in the beginning, he says the same thing.
Yeah. He says it's throughout the Gita.
Yeah.
Sometimes directly and sometimes indirectly, that only the devotee can actually understand Krishna's position. Yeah, so let's presume it's that. And the position by which he can understand the Supreme Lord is described. Okay. In the middle 6 chapters, okay, the middle 6 now, of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the relationship between the individual soul and the super soul in regards to devotional service are described. So bhakti is given there, especially the 9th chapter. The superior position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the subordinate position of the individual soul are definitely defined in these chapters. The living entities are subordinate under all circumstances. Okay, under every and all circumstances, we are subordinate. But in their forgetfulness, I could say we, in our forgetfulness, they are suffering. So it means if we remember our constitutional position, then we can be free of suffering. When enlightened by pious activities, they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities. There's that verse, only by those who are pious in previous lives and in this life, and whose sinful reactions are completely eradicated, they can approach the Lord. You know that verse? I need to brush up on my Bhagavad Gita verses.
Tesham tvantagatam papam.
Yeah, tesam dvantagatam papam jananam kama punyanam kama dvanda bhuktam bhajanti ma. Anyway, you got it.
Yeah, te dvanda moha nirmukta bhajante mam dradavrata.
Yeah, you've got it. Mother Kishore got it spot on. Yeah, thank you. So Prabhupada is referring to that verse here. But to be noted, the type of pious activities that brings us to bhakti is not material piety. It's bhakti umukhi sukriti. It's unknowing pious activities. Prabhupada speaks about that in Chaitanya Charitamrita. But anyway, for now, Prabhupada's given just a general understanding. When enlightened by pious activities, they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities. And you'll know that verse, Chaturveda bhajanti mam jana sukritina Arjuna atitikyasi atati ganicha paradarshapa. So now he's quoting from the 7th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So they approach the Supreme Lord in different capacities, as the distressed, those in want of money, the inquisitive, and those in search of knowledge. That is also described. Now, starting with the 13th chapter, how the living entity comes in contact with material nature. So how it all began, yeah. And how he is delivered by the Supreme Lord through different methods of fruitive activities, karma yoga, cultivation of knowledge, jnana yoga, and discharge of devotional service, obviously bhakti, are explained. Although the living entity is completely different from the material body, he somehow becomes related. Yeah, this is explained. Okay. Text 3. Okay, someone like to read this verse? Let's share the reading out. Make sure you're still with us. You can have a go at reading.
Shall I read, Prabhu?
Yes, go ahead, Mama.
Ete jnanam kapi mam vidhi sarva shetru bharata shetra jnanam yattad jnanam matam mama. O sign of Bharat, you should understand that I am also the knower of all the bodies, and to understand this body and its knower is called knowledge. That is my opinion. Purport. While discussing the subject of the body and the knower of the body, the soul and the supersoul, we shall find three different types of study: the Lord, the living entity, and matter. In every field of activities, in every body, there are two souls, the individual soul and the supersoul. Because the supersoul is a plenary expansion of the knower, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa. Krishna says, I'm also the knower, but I'm not the individual knower of the body. I'm the super knower. I'm present in every body as a Paramatma or super soul. One who studies the subject matter of the field of activity and the knower of the field very minutely, in terms of this Bhagavad Gita, can attain to knowledge. The Lord says, I'm the knower of the field of activities in every individual body. The individual may be the knower of his own body, but he is not in knowledge of other bodies. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is present as the super soul in all bodies, knows everything about all bodies. He knows all the different bodies of all the various species of life. A citizen may know everything about his patch of land, but the king knows not only his palace, but all the properties possessed by the individual citizens. Similarly, one may be the proprietor of the body individually, but the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all bodies. The king is the original proprietor of the kingdom, and the citizen is the secondary proprietor. Similarly, the Supreme Lord is the supreme proprietor of all bodies. The body consists of senses. The Supreme Lord is Kṛṣṇa, which means the controller of the senses. Is the original controller of the senses, just as the king is the original controller of all the activities of the state. The citizens are secondary controllers. The Lord says, I'm also the knower. This means that he is the supernova. The individual soul knows not only his particular body. In the Vedic literature, it is stated as follows: Kshetrani hi sharirani bijam kapi subha ashu tanviti sa yogatma tatha kshetra gyan uchayate. This body is called the Kshetra, and within it dwells the owner of the body and the Supreme Lord, who knows both the body and the owner of the body. Therefore, he is called the knower of all fields. The distinction between the field of activities, the knower of activities, and the supreme knower of activities is described as follows. Perfect knowledge of the constitution of the body, the constitution of the individual soul, and the constitution of the supersoul is known in terms of Vedic literature as jnana. This is the opinion of Kṛṣṇa. To understand both the soul and the supersoul as one, yet distinct, is knowledge. One who does not understand the field of activity and the knower of activity is not in perfect knowledge. One has to understand the position of prakṛti, nature, puruṣa, the enjoyer of nature, and Ishvara, the knower, who dominates or controls nature and the individual soul. One should not confuse the three in their different capacities. One should not confuse the painter, the painting, and the easel. This material world, which is field of activities, is nature, and the enjoyer of nature is the living entity, and above them both is the supreme controller, the personality of Godhead. It is stated in the Vedic language in 1-2, Bhokta Bhogyam Paritaram Sa Matva Sarve Proktam Tri Vidam Brahman Ete. These are three Brahmans, conceptions. Prakrti is Brahman as a field of activities, and the Jiva, individual soul, is also Brahman, and is trying to control material nature, and the controller of both of them is also Brahman, but he is the effectual controller. In this chapter, it will also be explained that out of the two knowers, one is fallible and the other is infallible. One is superior and the other is subordinate. One who understands the two knowers of the field to be the one and the same contradicts the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who states it very clearly, I am also the knower of the field of activity. One who misunderstands a rope to be a serpent is not in knowledge. There are different kinds of bodies, and there are different kinds of, different owners of the bodies, because each individual soul has its individual capacity for lording it over material nature. They are different bodies, but the Supreme also is present in them as a controller. The word cha is significant, for it indicates the total number of bodies. That is the opinion of Srila Baladev Vidyabhushana. Krishna is a super soul present in each and every body, apart from the individual soul. And Krishna explicitly says here that the super soul is the controller of both the field of activities and the finite enjoyer.
Okay, Hari Om, that's it. Okay, perhaps we should have stopped each paragraph, but anyway, we heard the whole purport. There's a scroll to the beginning. Any particular comments? Anything that particular struck you on this? Any questions?
I think it's very clear, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what's wonderful about Srila Prabhupada's purports. It makes things very clear. Where otherwise it can be quite complicated. So without Srila Prabhupada's purports, then it would definitely be unclear. So this is Prabhupada. He's fully realized these points. So he's explaining it in such a way that he's helping us to penetrate and understand what otherwise would be a mystery. Yeah. So it's quite one thing I was thinking of is that it's quite a profound that in the sense that everyone embodies, so within every jiva there is the Supreme Lord. He's there accompanying every jiva. So that makes this, you could say that makes the material world to be quite phenomenal actually, because Krishna is present everywhere. That was being described this morning as well. Yeah. So this is how Krishna is situated everywhere. He's there as the super soul. And the purport this morning said he's present in all animate and inanimate objects as the super soul. Yeah. So
It's also present in a rock or a mountain or a stone.
Yeah. He's present even in inanimate, or there are some stones that are animate, apparently, as we hear. He's present, so there's no hiding from Krishna. So his consciousness is spread everywhere. Yeah. So he knows everything at all times. Our consciousness is spread from the top of our skull to the bottom of our big toe, carried by the blood. So we have some perception of what's going on within our field, but not completely. It's probably a good job as well that we don't know what's going on in the kidney, in the liver, in the lungs. Otherwise we'll be a bit manic. So we got these watches now, isn't it? People wear these watches where it gives a count of the blood, or it gives a whole thing, but still we cannot know fully. We can know to some degree. So I often give this example. So as us, we are part and parcel of Kṛṣṇa. So as us, as is Kṛṣṇa, but to a super inconceivable degree, that if you tread on a pin, you can feel it. Ow! Yeah, why? Because you're conscious. Because although you're the soul within the heart region, your consciousness is spread throughout the body, through the blood, actually. So then expand that to an unlimited degree, and so this whole universe system and all the universes, it's all Krishna's body. So as we are conscious of our body, he is conscious of his universal body, and he's not just conscious of it, but it's from him that the ingredients of the universe is made. It's the ingredients that comes from Kṛṣṇa. Again, was mentioned this morning. That's a puruṣa. Yeah. So and from those ingredients, which is his body, then you engage in yajna to that supreme. So kind of wonderful, to try and understand these things, So we're being asked to study this. Prabhupada's saying here, one who studies the subject matter. At least we should hear, and we should try to understand. And that's real knowledge. Yeah. If you ask someone today, what is knowledge? You go to someone on the street. Next time you're in Tesco's, ask the person next to you on the checkout, what is knowledge? That reminds me, there's one book I read by one Christian Orthodox scholar who's read Prabhupada's books. So he has an interesting, some of the things he says is quite interesting, and he wrote a book called Satchit Ananda, where he's exploring the omnipotence of the Lord, but from a Christian perspective. So, but there's one he compares, and he gives a comparison to in previous days where persons were generally culturally inquisitive about deeper aspects of life. In other words, that was more religious, as in comparison to today. And he said that the deepest question that people ask themselves today is, how much does it cost? That's the position of things in this so-called modernity. That some of the deepest or the most common question that really is the most important for people is, how much does it cost? Yeah, rather than inquiring to deeper values of life. Atata Parama Jignasa. So such a sad state of affairs. But the way he explains it is quite good. All right, any other questions or comments as we slowly scroll down? But as Mother Anupama said, Prabhupada's making it very clear for us. We have the field, the knower of the field, then we have the supreme knower, which is Kṛṣṇa. Yeah. Okay, perhaps let's just go on to the next verse. Yeah. Okay, text 4. Let's slowly move on to text 4. Okay, anyone like to read text 4? Let me just check the size of the purple. Okay, very small. So we'll just read this complete purple.
Shall I read?
Yeah, go ahead.
Tatakshetram yadrakcha yadvikari yatasya chat yat sachayo yat prabhavascha tata samasena me shrunu. Translation. Now please hear my brief description of this field of activity and how it is constituted, what its changes are, whence it is produced, who that knower of the field of activity is, and what his influences are.
Okay, some interesting points Krishna's going to explain here. Carry on.
The Lord is describing the field of activities and the knower of the field of activities in their constitutional positions. One has to know how this body is constituted, the materials of which this body is made, under whose control this body is working, how the changes are taking place, where from the changes are coming, what the causes are, what the reasons are, what the ultimate goal of the individual soul is, and what the actual form of the individual soul is. One should also know the distinction between the individual living soul and the super soul, their different influences, their potentials, etc. One just has to understand this Bhagavad Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and all this will be clarified. But one should be careful not to consider the Supreme Personality of Godhead in every body to be one with the individual soul, the jiva. This is something like equating the potent and the impotent.
Yeah, or as Prabhupada said in the last purple, the painter, the picture, and the easel. Shouldn't consider them to be one. Now these questions here, which Prabhupada brings out, these are natural questions which even to one degree young children are curious about, isn't it? Where do we come from? Where do we go? How do babies come? Like that. So yeah, how does it all work? Children ask lots of questions, isn't it? At a certain age, they ask lots of questions because they want to understand. Yeah, but the type of answers they get may confuse them even more. Yeah. So what does this come under? There's 3 words which every verse in Veda comes under one of these 3 subjects. There's 3 different types of subject of knowledge. So I'm asking the question, when I say one, you will know the other 2. Anyone could have a guess?
Soul, Supreme Soul, and Super Soul.
No.
No.
Prabhupada, okay, I give it away. Is anyone else out there just about to say, going once, going twice, going 3 times? So what's being described here is Abhideya. No, sorry, Sambandha. Knowledge of relationship is being described. This is Sambandha. It is not Abhideya at the moment. Well, Abhideya is there, but it will come later, and Prayojan. But here, specifically, knowledge of relationship. So we should know, or Kṛṣṇa is explaining these things, here, to know what's the constitution of our body, what's the materials, Bhumi, Apa, Nalo, Vayu, who is controlling this body, how is it working? I would like to, I guess, I can't now, but I would like to have asked these questions and put my hand up in school. Excuse me, sir, can you tell how this body is constituted, what it's made from, who controls it, how the body is working? Of course, that would give probably some secular, atheistic, so-called answer. What is the ultimate goal of the individual soul? What is the actual form of the individual soul? These are really real questions. And the knowledge and the answers to these questions can, as Prabhupada earlier said, can free us from illusion and being entangled in this world. Yeah. So Krishna's going to explain all this. Yeah. And it's here, as Anupama said, but Prabhupada describing that, just highlighted this here. One has to understand this Bhagavad Gita directly from the description given by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And and all this will be clarified. Okay, everything will be clarified. You just read Bhagavad Gita. Everything will be clarified. Then comes questions of once you have knowledge of Sambandha, then Abhidheya. Abhidheya is next. How to put that knowledge into practice. Yeah, Abhidheya. Abhidheya again. But you have to start here. If we don't have sufficient knowledge of Sambandha, then we can't help but we will not be able to move forward towards prayojan, the ultimate goal. So we have to have a very clear understanding to help us engage in Abhidheya. Okay. Any questions, comments, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, let's hop over to text. What was it? Text 4. Hop forward to text 5. Okay, someone like to read this verse? Check the. Okay, well, bit of a lengthy purport. We'll see how we go. Any readers out there? Okay, I'll jump in and go again. Rishibi Buhodakitam Chandobi Vividai Pratak Brahmashutta Patascheva Hitamatbi Vinishchitai. Okay, so Rishibi, the wise sages. That knowledge of the field of activities and the knower of activities is described by various sages in various Vedic writings. Again, Vedanta Sutra comes up again. It is especially presented in Vedanta Sutra of all reasoning as to cause and effect. I mean, that's why all paramparas have to do a commentary on Vedanta Sutra. Yeah. So he has mentioned. So Kṛṣṇa himself, I mean, he's God, but he's showing the correct method and way of understanding. So he's referring to great sages, great rishis, rishibhir, by wise sages. They know these things and they've described it, and especially it's mentioned in Vedanta Sutra. Okay, I read the purport. Well, I keep going on about Vedanta Sutra lately, but it's not a big book. It's not like volumes like the Srimad Bhagavatam. Vedanta Sutra is one book, it's one book. Okay. And Prabhupada said that was one that was on his list to translate next, should he have lived longer. One of them was the Vedanta Sutra. Okay. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Kṛṣṇa, is the highest authority in explaining this knowledge. Still, as a matter of course, learned scholars and standard authorities always give evidence from previous authorities. Yeah. As we know, that's our method, that's our way. We do not speculate. There is no need to speculate. Kṛṣṇa is explaining this most controversial point regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul and the supersoul by referring to scripture, the Vedanta, which is accepted as authority. So that discussion has been going on since time immemorial, and even now. Yeah, that of just regarding the duality and non-duality of the soul. Yeah, are they one or are they different? And we say both. They're one and they're different. Yeah. Okay, any questions, please feel free to ask as we go. First, he says, this is according to different sages. Or sometimes sages say different things as well. This is according to different sages. As far as the sages are concerned, besides himself, Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra, is a great sage. So Vyasadeva is a great sage. And in the Vedanta Sutra, duality is perfectly explained. So not monism, but duality is perfectly explained. As Vyasadev's father, puruṣa, who was also a great sage, and he writes in his books of religiosity, Aham tvam cha tatanye, we, you, and the various other living entities are all transcendental. Not transcendental, transcendental. Yeah, we are jiva. Although in material bodies, now we are fallen into the ways of the three modes of material nature according to our different karma. As such, some are on a higher levels, material, and some are in the lower nature. The high and lower nature exists due to ignorance. So we are forced into lower and higher natures due to ignorance, and are being manifested in an infinite number of living entities. Both the supersoul, which is infallible, is uncontaminated by the three modes. Is uncontaminated by the three qualities of nature and is transcendental. But the supersoul. But the supersoul. Similarly, in the original Vedas, a distinction between the soul, the supersoul, and the body is made, especially in the Katha Upanishad. There are many great sages who have explained this, and puruṣa is considered principal among them. Okay? The father of Srila Vyasadeva, Puruṣa Muni. The word Chandobi refers to various Vedic literatures. The Tatitriya Upanishad, for example, which is a branch of the Yajur Veda, describes nature, the living entity, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. As stated before, Kshetra is the field of activities, and there are two kinds of Kshetra Gyan. So this Prabhupada, it's the same thing being explained, isn't it? Prabhupada's really making it clear for us. The individual living entity and supreme living entity. As stated in the Tatittari Upanishad, Brahma Pucham Patishta, there is a manifestation of the Supreme Lord's energy. Okay, this takes some understanding here. Known as Anamaya, dependence upon food for existence. Okay, so that's stage one in development of consciousness. Yeah. Just like young babies, they're generally at this level of development in consciousness. They try to put everything in their mouth. They just know eating. So children have to be careful what they pick up because they put it in their mouth. So Anamaya, dependence upon food for existence. That's the basic bottom line of existence. You have to eat. Yeah. Everyone has to eat. This is a materialistic realization of the Supreme. Yeah. Here in London, when I go into the temple each morning, then I always see foxes. There's a couple of foxes scavenging. They come out from around Regent's Park, I think, or one of the small parks here and there. So they have to eat. They have to eat, otherwise they die. So they're scavenging for food. The same as the pigeons as well. They're scavenging because they're going to die unless they eat. Yeah. For us, we're so-called civilized. We can buy food. We can put it in a cupboard. We got a little kitchen. We can turn on the heat. We can cook things. But animals, it's animal life. So it's basically this consciousness. Yeah. Then in pranamaya, after realizing the supreme absolute truth in food, okay, so you realize, yeah, so that's how Kṛṣṇa manifests. He is by God's grace that food is supplied to the jiva. So then in pranamaya, after realizing the absolute truth in food, one can realize the absolute truth in the living symptoms or life forms. All right. So then you're aware that other people exist apart from what you want to, you're not just conscious of filling your own stomach. Oh, there's other people here. that there is life. There's the phenomena of life. Yeah. Next is Jnanamaya. Realization extends beyond the living symptoms to the point of thinking, feeling, and willing. Okay, so then you're engaged in contemplation. You're engaged in life. Yeah. You ponder, you think. Yeah. You desire. You have feelings. Yeah. So above that, then there is Brahman realization called Vijnanamaya. So this is what's being described here. Vijnanamaya, in which living entity's mind and life symptoms are distinguished from the living entity himself. Vijnanamaya. Yeah. So you can see these are different levels of consciousness, different levels of existence. So Vijnanamaya. So we're presently trying to understand this. And that will bring us to, now if we understand this, that will bring us to the next stage. Okay. The next and supreme stage is Anandamaya. So Ananda means, what does Ananda mean?
Bliss.
Bliss. Haribol.
Anandamaya.
Yeah, this is what we want. The trouble is, animals are trying to find Anandamaya in Anna, in food. Yeah. Or some Gyanis are trying to find it in knowledge, etc. But Anandamaya can only be experienced in relationship of devotion to the Supreme. Yeah. So Prabhupada says the next supreme stage is Anandamaya, realization of the all blissful nature. So thus there are 5 stages of Brahman realization. So all this is Brahman, all different aspects of Brahman realization, which are called Brahma Pucham. All right, so all of these together are called Brahma Pucham. Out of these, the first 3, Annamaya, food, Pranamaya, people, life, Jnanamaya, contemplation, involve the field of activities of all living entities. Now, above all of that, transcendental to all these fields of activities is the Supreme Lord, and he's known as Anandamaya. Yeah. The Vedanta Sutra also describes the Supreme by saying, Anandamayo Vyashat. That we've heard Prabhupada say that. You reckon we heard that before? Anandamayo Vyashat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead by nature is full of joy. Yeah. And that's the constitution of the jiva as well. But because we identify with the field and we're entangled, then we lose touch with that joyful nature. Yeah. To enjoy his transcendental bliss, oh, interesting here, he expands into Vijnanamaya. So this is his Leela. This is Krishna's Leela. He expands into Vijnanamaya, Pranamaya, Jnanamaya, and Annamaya. In the field of activities, the living entity is considered to be the enjoyer, and different from him is the Anandamaya, Krishna. That means that the living entity decides to enjoy in dovetailing, if, that's a big part I missed, if the living entity decides to enjoy in dovetailing himself with the Anandamaya, then he becomes perfect. That is the real picture of the Supreme Lord as the supreme knower of the field, the living entity as the subordinate knower, and the nature of the field of activities. One has to search for this truth in the Vedanta Sutra and Brahma Sutra. Okay, so we've been told to do something here. We have to search for this truth. Of course, do we need to study Vedanta Sutra? What's the commentary on the Vedanta Sutra? The natural commentary.
Going back, I was thinking, wasn't it this Vedanta Sutra, like, who was it? Anyway, it's a long thing. But then we had, we brought Srimad Bhagavatam, so we don't really need to.
Yeah, that's it. That's the natural commentary
remember the
on.
names, yes.
Yeah, that's the natural
Actual
commentary
right
on
to
the
do
Vedanta
that.
Sutra.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Gaudiya Vaishnavas no, there wasn't no Gaudiya Vaishnavas, but
In those days, no.
yeah, but they didn't need a commentary of Vedanta Sutra because Vyasadeva wrote it. Then in his maturity, he wrote Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam. Yeah. But then the Vaishnavas were then challenged by there's some philosophical school, I forget the name. They was challenged as not being bona fide because they didn't have an actual commentary on Vedanta Sutra. But we do. We had Srimad Bhagavatam. But an actual commentary means that actually means that you give the actual verse in Vedanta Sutra and you give your commentary. You give the actual verse, but Bhagavatam is not laid out like that. It's different. So they were wanting that commentary. So Baladev Vijayabhushana wrote that commentary. Yeah,
Yes.
Baladev Vijayabhushana. Yeah, interesting part of our history.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's just finish this purport. It is mentioned here, okay, only 4 lines. It is mentioned here that the codes of the Brahma Sutra are very nicely arranged according to cause and effect. Well, it's very difficult to understand, I'm telling you. Try and read it. Some of the sutras or aphorisms are Na Vidyat Ashrutte, Nadatma Shrutte, and Parattu Tat Trute. 2340. The first aphorism indicates the field of activities. The second indicates the living entity. And the third indicates the supreme law, the summum bonum, among all manifestations of various entities. Okay, there's a nice bit of philosophy for the evening. Okay, thank you, everyone. So this is our first, again, breaking into Bhagavad Gita again. And let's pick it up next week, okay? So thank you, everyone.
Sorry, I sent the text out too late, like 5 o'clock, so probably not many people.
We'll be here next week so they can join.
Yes,
So tomorrow we'll be on the holy name, speaking about the holy name. So please join us if you can, yeah? Okay, thank you, everyone. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Guru Prabhu.
Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Thank you so much,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Wonderful class, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare
So just
Krishna.
remember,
Thank you.
Anamaya, Pranamaya, Vijnanmaya, Anandamaya. Okay? Hare Kṛṣṇa.
Yeah, I heard those
Hare Krishna.
before, but I never could get it into my head.
So I will.
Right.
So next Tuesday I will test you if you remember these. Okay.